I'm Lauren, and what began as a quiet evening scrolling through Instagram turned my life into a whirlwind of hope, betrayal, and terror that I'm still trying to recover from. At 28, I lived a simple life in Portland, Oregon, working as a freelance graphic designer, my days filled with the hum of my laptop, the aroma of coffee from my favorite local cafe, and the occasional pang of loneliness that came with being adopted. I'd been taken in as a baby by a loving couple, the Thompsons, who gave me a happy childhood filled with backyard barbecues and bedtime stories, but I always carried a void, an ache to know my roots. All I had of my biological family was a faded Polaroid of a young woman with my hazel eyes, holding a single daisy, her smile soft but distant, tucked away in a keepsake box under my bed. I often wondered if I had siblings out there, someone who shared my features, my quirks, my story, but I never expected to find an answer in the glow of my phone screen on a rainy Tuesday night. While browsing Instagram, I stumbled upon a profile that froze me in my tracks. A woman named Rachel, whose face was a mirror image of mine. Same hazel eyes that changed with the light, same freckles dusting her nose, even the same dimple on her left cheek that I'd always been self-conscious about. My heart pounded as I studied her photos. Rachel laughing at a farmer's market, holding a bouquet of sunflowers, Rachel sipping hot cocoa by a fireplace, her scarf the same shade of teal I loved. It was uncanny, like seeing a ghost of myself living a life I didn't know. With shaky fingers, I typed a message. This might sound crazy, but do you think we could be twins? I hit send, my breath catching, and within minutes her reply popped up. Oh my gosh, Lauren, I've been looking for you my whole life. Her words sent a surge of warmth through me, a spark of hope I hadn't felt in years. Rachel and I dove into a whirlwind connection, texting nonstop and video calling late into the night, our screens glowing as we uncovered shared traits that felt like magic. We both loved mint chocolate chip ice cream, sneezed twice in a row without fail, and had the same habit of twirling our hair when nervous. She told me she'd grown up in Seattle, raised by a single dad after her mom died in a car accident when she was 3, and she'd always felt an emptiness she couldn't explain, a longing for a sibling she never knew she had. Her stories painted a picture of a lonely childhood. Her dad, a stoic mechanic, worked long hours, leaving her to entertain herself with books and imaginary friends, one of whom she named Lulu, a name I'd once given an imaginary sister as a child. The coincidence made my skin tingle with excitement, and I felt an instant bond as if I'd known her forever. We decided to meet in person, and I spent the week leading up to it in a frenzy of nerves and anticipation, picking out a green sweater I thought she'd like and baking her favorite lemon cookies from a recipe she'd mentioned. When I saw her at the Portland train station, stepping off the Amtrak with a hesitant smile, my breath caught. It was like staring into a living mirror, her dimple flashing as she ran toward me. We hugged, tears streaming down our faces, and I felt her tremble in my arms, her voice breaking as she whispered, "I can't believe I found you." We spent the day exploring Portland's quirky streets, wandering through Powell's Books, where we both gravitated to the same poetry section, and sharing a giant slice of Marionberry pie at a cozy diner, laughing over the way we both tilted our heads the same way when we smiled. I felt a warmth I'd never known, as if a missing piece of my soul had finally clicked into place, filling the void I'd carried for so long. Rachel suggested we take a DNA test to confirm our connection, and I agreed, eager for proof of our bond. She insisted on using a lab her friend recommended, saying it was faster and more reliable, and I didn't think twice, too caught up in the joy of finding her. The results came back a week later, confirming we were identical twins, separated at birth due to a clerical error at the hospital where we were born, a mix-up in paperwork that sent me to the Thompsons and her to her dad in Seattle. I cried when I read the results, clutching the paper to my chest, overwhelmed by the idea that I'd finally found my family, my other half, someone who understood me in a way no one else ever could. But as the weeks passed, cracks began to form in Rachel's story, each one sending a shiver of doubt through me. She was evasive about her childhood, dodging questions about her dad with vague responses like, "He's just really private," or changing the subject to ask about my work instead. Her social media history only went back 2 years, with no trace of her life before that, as if she'd materialized out of thin air. I noticed other oddities. During one video call, she wore a necklace with a tiny locket, but when I asked about it, she quickly tucked it away, her smile faltering as she mumbled, "It's nothing, just a trinket." Another night, as we chatted about our favorite childhood movies, I heard a man's voice in the background, low and urgent. "You need to stop this, Rachel, now. before she muted herself, her face paling as she claimed it was just her neighbor complaining about noise. My gut twisted with unease, a nagging voice whispering that something wasn't right, but I pushed it aside, desperate to hold onto the sister I'd just found, clinging to the dream I'd nurtured for so long. The first real red flag came when Rachel sent me a photo she claimed was from her childhood, a little girl at a park, holding a red balloon, her smile wide and innocent. But as I looked closer, my stomach dropped. In the background was a sign for the Seattle Harvest Festival 2020, an event that happened when we were both adults, not children. The realization hit me like a punch. She'd lied about the photo, fabricating a memory that didn't exist. My hands shook as I opened my laptop, my mind racing with questions I'd been too afraid to ask. I started digging, searching her name online, cross-referencing details she'd given me, and what I found turned my blood cold. Rachel wasn't Rachel at all. She was Emily Carter, a 29-year-old woman with a criminal record for identity theft and fraud, who'd been on the run for 2 years after scamming multiple families across the West Coast. Articles detailed her modus operandi. She targeted adoptees like me, preying on our longing for family, using fake identities to gain trust before draining their savings or stealing their identities. One story recounted how she'd posed as a long-lost daughter to an elderly couple in Tacoma, convincing them to sign over their retirement savings before disappearing into the night. Another described how she'd faked a DNA test to infiltrate a family in Boise, only to be caught when a suspicious sibling hired a private investigator. My mind reeled as I connected the dots. The DNA test we'd taken, she'd insisted on using her friend's trusted lab, and I'd been too trusting, too eager to question it. She must have tampered with the results, forging the report to make me believe we were twins. I felt sick, my stomach churning with betrayal, but I needed to confront her, to hear the truth from her lips. I drove to Seattle the next day, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, my heart pounding as I rehearsed what I'd say. We met at a dimly lit diner near her apartment, the smell of greasy fries and burnt coffee hanging in the air as I slid into the booth across from her. She smiled at first, that familiar dimple flashing, but her expression hardened when I pulled out the fake photo and the articles I'd printed, slamming them on the table. "Who are you, really?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and heartbreak. Her eyes narrowed, the warmth I'd once seen replaced with a chilling smirk as she leaned in, her voice a low hiss. "You should have stayed out of it, Lauren. I know everything about you now." The truth poured out like venom. She'd already accessed my bank accounts, using the personal details I'd shared during our late-night chats, my birth date, my mother's maiden name, even my social security number, which I'd given her when she offered to help me with a family tree project. She'd applied for credit cards in my name, racking up over $15,000 in debt, and drained my savings account, leaving me with less than $200 to my name. But the betrayal cut even deeper when I learned she'd contacted my adoptive parents, posing as me to manipulate them into wiring her $5,000 for a medical emergency, claiming I'd been in a car accident and needed surgery. My mom called me in tears the next day, her voice shaking as she asked why I hadn't told her directly, and I broke down, the weight of Rachel's, Emily's, deception crushing me. I reported her to the police, providing screenshots of our chats, the fake photo and bank statements showing the unauthorized transactions. The investigation was a grueling process. Detectives interviewed me for hours, their questions probing every detail of our relationship, while I sat in a cold precinct room, clutching a paper cup of stale coffee, my eyes red from crying. They eventually tracked her down to a motel in Tacoma, arresting her on charges of fraud and identity theft, but not before she vanished with what little money I had left, leaving behind a taunting note. "You were an easy mark, sis." The police recovered some of my funds, but the financial damage paled in comparison to the emotional toll. I couldn't look in the mirror for weeks, seeing her face, my face staring back at me, a haunting reminder of the sister I'd never truly had. My adoptive parents were devastated, blaming themselves for falling for her scam, and I spent countless nights reassuring them, even as I battled my own guilt for letting her into our lives. The scars run deep. I flinch at notifications on my phone, fearing another message from her, and I've become wary of strangers, my once open heart now guarded behind walls I never thought I'd build. I'm still rebuilding my finances, working extra hours to pay off the debt she left, and I've started therapy to process the betrayal, learning to trust again one small step at a time. But the hardest part is the lingering question that keeps me awake at night. What if my real twin is out there, waiting to be found, her face a mirror of mine, her heart as longing as my own? I may never know, but this ordeal taught me a painful lesson about the dangers of hope, even as I hold onto a flicker of it, dreaming of a reunion that might one day be real. Thanks for listening to my story, it means the world to share this with you. Let me know in the comments if it resonated with you, and please like and subscribe if you'd like more real-life mystery tales. I'd really appreciate your support.